Go live. Doopy-doopy-doop. We are live. Okay, so welcome to Worldwide Stock Car Chat on Zoom with noise in Greg's background the whole time, which I will be muting out as much as possible. Most of the gang's here. Let's talk stock cars. Anybody have any show and tell they want to share? Put your hand up, and we'll make sure to get to you. What you got, Russ?
Well, I got something here. These you've seen.
Oh, those are your Ninco classics. Oh, you're gonna have to turn off your background, dude. We can't see what you're trying to show off.
Hang on.
Those cars look like they're in your background, which is kind of cool. Oh, we have dead air.
Yeah, never. Yeah, Russ, you gotta click where the video button is, and then click the little arrow, and then blur my background, and then unblur, because blurring will turn off your background. That's just the easiest way to do it. Switch to blur and then unblur.
Okay.
Still there.
Let me ask you this. You got clear with the, okay, I got you.
Nope.
Click where my camera is.
Click a little up arrow right next to the camera, the stop.
Gotcha. I got you.
And then click blur my background, and then go back and unblur your background.
Okay.
We're just a bunch of old guys.
I see everything except for that.
Okay, well, do you want to just kind of like try to hold it up or something, or do you have any pictures you want to screen share? I was going to share the pictures that I took of what I think you're showing off, but I don't want to steal your thunder.
I've got choose avatar, choose video filter, choose virtual background, and blur my background.
Okay, click blur my background. Now go back to the same menu, and it should switch to unblur. Except don't turn your camera off.
Okay.
You got to start your
Ninco Classic.
Russ, you got to start your video. You accidentally clicked stop video. We're almost there. So close I can take. There we go.
Same thing I used to yell at my kids about.
Okay, you're good to go now. Hold it up.
So these are the Ninco Classics that I have. I've got an extra one in the garage. But the reason actually that you guys get those cars, I wanted to show Greg. Greg, I know you told me not to paint this, okay? But
I told you how.
I took a Sharpie marker and tried to just do the top edge of the number.
Yeah, that's exactly what I told you not to do.
I didn't think a marker would cause.
I said marker. I said don't use a marker.
What, any recommendations?
Yeah, use regular paint, like latex paint or model paint, and use a dry brush technique. So dip it in the paint, wipe the excess paint off, and then brush the top of the numbers, because capillary action will pull any liquid out and into all the little layer lines like you experienced with the Sharpie.
Okay.
But if you use a dry brush technique, then there won't be enough liquid paint to get pulled into the lines. And so you're just kind of brushing over the top of the numbers.
Although I gotta admit, that's a pretty cool effect, though.
That is kind of cool. It actually looks like it's weathered or something.
Yeah. So I thought about doing the whole thing that way. I don't know. But anyway, I'm sorry, and I know you told me not to do that.
It's okay.
Apologies.
No,
But
It'll look good once you get the color on the numbers. It'll look weathered, like
Yeah,
John
it
said.
looks cool already. And thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, that segues nicely into my show and tell, so I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Share that, and then switch tabs. Come on. There we go. So this is what Russ is holding up, the winner's podium for 132nd scale slot cars. I don't think I showed you guys this earlier, but it's already up on printables. I went ahead and printed the 124th version as well. This is actually 3 separate pieces, and you might notice a color difference because I didn't have enough white for all 3 pieces of the same material. So the centerpiece is PLA, and this piece is ABS, and this piece is PETG. So they look slightly different. And then of course I did the numbers in separate shiny colors and glued them in there because I hate painting. And then there it is with a bunch of 124th cars on it. And then there's one I printed for a guy who commissioned me to print. This is the 132nd one with colored numbers in there.
The lines on the one, is that on purpose or is it just a layer line?
No, this is a it's like the whole line on a benchy. It's caused by the second layer, the second level, second place plinth. That's the same layer that stops at, and then this one right here is where the third one is. I don't know how to slice it
in this. Okay.
Yeah, it's an anomaly of that kind of. Yeah, I'll do something to figure it out, but it also warped a little bit. This pulled away from the sheet as it was printing, but usually that causes ugly corners, and it didn't seem to have caused any problems there. So, thank you. So yeah, and then I also went ahead and did an Electric Dreams specific setup block for my car. I got Dennis to go measure the width of the braids and the width of the slot and the depth of the slot and the how far down off the track surface the braids were, and I made this setup block for it. You can kind of see this is the edge of where the track surface is, and then this is where the braid is, and then this is the wood of the slot, and then obviously the slot. And I also, zoom back. There we go.
You're going to share that with all the competitors, right?
What was that?
You're going to share that with all the competitors, right?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to print their own, most of the guys down there are freaking pros or something. This is just to help me. This ain't giving me an edge. This is giving me a less failure. I don't know. Anyways,
I would put that up on printables and market it as Electric Dreams for people that from out of state that come to Electric Dreams. This will help them.
Okay, I'll put it up. I already have the other setup
cool.
blocks. I'll put it up on the setup blocks one as a third model to download.
Cool.
And the spec is for a. Come on, wait, give me grief. Is that the last picture? Okay, let me back out of there. Okay, yeah, there it is. So the spec for the car is a 0.8 millimeter gap between the track and the bottom of the motor, or bottom of the rear axle area. So I printed a 0.8 millimeter feeler gauge to do that with, and that is a surprisingly small amount of space. I could like double or triple this and still fit it under my car right now because I haven't done the tires or anything. So yeah, there's that. And that's pretty much it for me. Any questions? Okay, moving on. Tony has had his hand up for a bit. Go ahead, Tony.
Evening all, or good morning. I had some cars delivered this morning.
Oh.
Is that one?
Oh yeah, that's the Scale Auto, the Berger McLaren.
Gerhard Berger.
Gerhard Berger McLaren. There's something very interesting on those cars. If you have a look on the side of the air scoop, there's a very, very small printed piece that says burger, and then it's supposed to have the Austrian flag right next to it. Problem is the Austrian flag is two horizontal stripes of red separated by a horizontal stripe of white between them. And the tampo print on the car is two stripes of green separated by a stripe of white. So somewhere somebody got it wrong. And not only that, they got it really wrong, because if you look at the Senna version of that same car, the number 20, the other number, right? It also says burger, the one with the yellow helmet, it also says burger on the side with the green and white stripes instead of the red and white stripes. So maybe by the second edition of all of those, they will have corrected it, and then these ones will have a bit more value being incorrect.
Yeah, so don't race that one. It might be valuable.
Okay, so that's that one.
That's it. They go very well. They run really well.
Oh,
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, NXX.
Great looking car.
I like this colour rather than that yellow one.
You didn't get the yellow one?
No, I didn't buy. I only bought one.
You're letting us
Might
down.
get the yellow one later on. I don't know.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got number 2 to come.
NSR Corvette by the looks of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh no, Mercedes.
Other Mercedes, yeah.
Nice. That is actually quite a big ass car.
They are.
It's
They're
long
huge.
and it's wide.
Yeah, one of the guys raced that last time we raced those. Actually, I
They
did.
seem to work quite well. I have one with a sidewinder motor, and on my track it's really quick.
Oh, and an MR slot car. There we go. Got the shadow.
Ah,
Give him glare.
number 53, number 537 of 1950.
We've become kind of mildly fascinated by how these things are still in stock at various retailers, because obviously it got great reviews and it's a lovely model, albeit expensive. But it is interesting to see that places like Pendle and some of the Spanish places have still got them in stock.
I guess all the hardcore shadow lovers already got theirs.
Yeah.
I don't have one because that car means nothing to me. So,
Well,
And it's not blue and yellow, right?
and it's not blue and yellow. Exactly.
You need to go see the real ones, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you've seen the full size ones, you would want one.
Man,
I'm sure.
What, no,
Not
what
saying it's
number
not
is
a
yours?
car.
What number?
His is 537.
Oh, that's what number mine is. only joking.
Yeah, except it's in Tony has it right now. He's going to ship it to you, is what you're saying.
0537 1950.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, that is it.
All righty. Thank you for sharing, sir. Let us move
More
on.
stuff coming next week.
Okay, we'll see some more next week. I think Jeremy had his hand up earlier, so we'll do Jeremy and then we'll do Dennis. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I think we need some muting.
How dare you? Listen, I'm an old man. A few months ago, one of the members in our club passed away, and then this past race, his son was selling a lot of his stuff. So I picked this up. It looks like it's a new, the NSR Porsche. Yeah. We don't really have a class for this. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but he was selling everything really cheap, so I was like, I should probably buy it. And then the second thing is, let me share my screen. This is where the bad things happen, right? Let's see. All right, am I sharing my track over here?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so I added the Dunlop Tower bridge walk 3D printed. It's one of the models. I think Greg prints as well. And then some Greg Gaub, what are these controller holders that I added to the track. So I got my track down for the first time this season and started turning some laps on it. That is all my show and tell.
All right. Such a nice looking track. That.
Hey, thanks.
Lovely.
It's a very nice looking track.
Just to get in there. So you 3D printed the whole of the Dunlop Tower and crossover?
Yeah, the square Dunlop Tower was like one of my white whales because I could never get it because it was so expensive. It's like $300-400 sometimes on eBay. And I saw it the first time I saw that model was on Over the Hill Gang's tracks. What's his name? Stephen Farr Jones.
Stephen Farr Jones.
He had that, and I was like, "What is that? I have to have it." And then I saw the price, and I was like, "Never mind." But now you can print these out. I mean, for under $50 if and then just take your time and do it. So, and then also the kind of cool thing is like I use 2 wide, but if you wanted to make it 3 wide or 4 wide, I mean, you can make it as wide as you want because the way the guy designed the parts for printing, that bridge section can be done as wide as you want.
Well, the reason I'm asking is I've got a second-hand one of the original ones, but I've always been missing the very top Dunlop sign.
Okay.
So if someone's I need to find someone who can 3D print me one of those. I'll happily pay them for that.
Yeah, that's easy. I don't know what the original model. I know the roof is a little different on the one that he designed here. I mean, I assume you just have a hole right down the middle of the original model. I've never seen the original, so I don't know.
Yeah, it looks pretty. I mean, it's kind of a flat roof with a flagpole with a sign on it. So I think what you've got here looks pretty much like what it should be. It's actually one of these, because it's broken off flush and it was broken before I bought it. It doesn't look wrong. If you didn't know it was meant to be there, it's fine. But of course, I know it's meant to be there, so it's all.
Yeah, that should be easy enough to print off. I mean, Greg probably has printed them before. You could whip you one out.
Yeah, there's guys in the UK that can print one for you.
Oh, there you go.
Jeremy, how big is the hoist?
The table is 8 feet across by 16 wide, or 16 long, 16 feet. But I lift it up to the top so I can park underneath there in the wintertime.
So you have it on a hoist then, huh? Wow.
I have it on a hoist, and then I have rails underneath it that are set. So if I want to set it on a trailer, and if I move, I can put it on a trailer and take it where I need to go. So, that's it.
Alrighty, thanks for sharing, sir. And Dennis, you are next.
Me, when you were talking about something that was warping, I thought that reminded me of something that I received from Eddie Shora the other day. You guys know Eddie, the guy who wrote the book and the little book, and he's been on the call before. And this arrived. It was made by, and maybe I should just cover up the name, made by a local, by a racer out here, and it's supposed to be an axle checker, right? The axles you put an axle through the bushings down here, and you run the dial indicator against that. Unfortunately, Eddie left it in his slot car box, and he left his car in the sun. And
oh, shame.
Oops.
So that means the person printed it in PLA.
Yeah, it's all done in PLA.
and it's thin. Like if it was 5 millimeters rather than what looks like 2, it might not have.
Maybe 3 millimeters thick at the bottom.
Yeah.
These pieces are 5 millimeters, but they're no longer, these little uprights, they're no longer parallel to each other either. So you actually can't get an axle through there.
Dennis, I was going to say that's more warped than my sense of humor.
Well, nearly, not quite, nearly. Yeah,
Dennis, you could mill that in aluminum. Come on, I mean aluminium.
that's exactly why it's in my box, because he wants an aluminum version of it, or an aluminium
you
version
go.
of it. He's not fussy. But I just thought I'd show you what happens to some of the stuff, and that every now and then one's got to consider not only the function of the item, but the environment in which it's going to have to operate. And I'm pretty sure that whoever the guy was who made these did not consider the fact that a slot car box was going to be left in a Saab Sonnet in Southern California heat for a couple of hours.
Well, I mean, even if it's not subjected to heat, that's thin enough that it would warp under.
Probably would have warped anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and just using it, it might have tweaked a little bit.
Yeah.
As you're using it. Yeah. The aluminium one will be fantastic.
Nice idea, but an aluminium one will be better. I'll show it to you guys once I have it made. I haven't
Do
done
you do
it
your
yet.
own mill work, Dennis?
Say again?
Do you do your own milling?
Yeah. But a thing like that, there's almost no milling involved. It'll be basically cutting a base and making a couple of uprights that will screw on. I wouldn't try to mill all of that out of a single piece. That would be crazy.
Yeah. That's working smarter.
Smart.
Dennis,
Exactly.
if you make one for the guy that printed that, make it out of aluminum foil.
Yeah.
Oh, you can name names, Dennis. Come on.
No, I'm not going to name that name. It wouldn't mean anything to you guys anyway. He's a Eurosport racer off the East Coast.
Plus, you learn a lesson. I mean, he learned that this didn't work. I mean,
hopefully he knows about it.
We've all made stuff that didn't work and learned.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah.
Got to start somewhere.
All right, looking forward to that one. And Frank, you're next on my screen. Go for it.
Well, hello there, everybody. Just wanted to show my latest creation.
Oh, cool.
Let's see. Get it into focus. Yeah, it's a 50
Don't
old.
focus too well.
Yeah, there.
Whoa.
Good enough.
Nice.
Cool.
130 seconds go?
Yeah. It's got a Penelope Pit Lane chassis. Oh, sorry. That's what I get for doing it on my phone, huh? That front bumper was solid. I had to cut the insides out to be able to see the grill behind it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
But it turned out okay.
Was that a resin cast or a 3D print, Frank?
Resin.
Oh, okay. So, oh, wow.
Yeah. I got it from a guy out of Spain who does mainly La Carrera Panamericana cars. And it came with all the decals and everything. And yes, I know it's supposed to be light beige, but I like to do my thing. And then while I've got everybody on the line, if anybody has gotten the new Julia from Revo Slot, the little Group 2 car, got to check that rear spur gear. One of the ones that we got the other day came with a 25 tooth instead of what it's supposed to come with, a 24 tooth. So if your rules at your club say 24, double check and make sure it's a purple center, not the gold center. And Alan Smith is going to try and contact Revo Slot and find out possibly what happened. Probably just another mistake like the Ford Escort. They ran out of parts out of the 24 tooth spurs, so they just decided to put a 25 in to get them made and shipped. That's all I've got.
Thank you for that public information there.
Public service.
All righty.
That's what I meant. PSA. Thank you, Dennis.
Public service announcement. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Frank. And Henry, you're next. Go ahead, sir.
Unmute and let's see if we can share how we did share again. Last time I saw him on the video, the chat. I saw that Scott was finding his Nincos again. Let me see if I can do the next one. And this is how they come 20, 25 years ago. After 25 years ago, you do a refurbish, and you can turn them in wonderful cars. Those are mine, and I'm not the best painter. And this one I found somewhere online. It's not a beautiful car, but the inspiration is enough. And this is what Mark did, and Mark is a very good painter. So you can do a lot with the old Nincos.
That one looks really nice.
I love how you had some Group C inserts on one of those.
This is the latest one of last 2 weeks. The Calibras. And if you do, I like this one also. And you can buy a chassis from Oliver, and you will do all things from slotted in it, and your 25 years old Ninco has a new life. And we race with them and a lot, and we race them digital because they're unbreakable almost. So that's it for the Ninco part.
Henry, you've turned those into silk purses. They're beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, those look great. Yeah, and especially with those tuned up chassis and everything. I'm sure they run
Oh, they
fantastic.
drive really wonderful. Yeah, they're like new. There is it's only the body of Ninco, of course.
I was gonna say probably on par with a slotted classic PTMs and or close.
Except those ones are sidewinders, so maybe.
Well, I mean, you can make them match if you really wanted to. Okay, thank you for sharing, Henry. Okay. Michael, you are next, sir.
I'm going to show everybody this. Now, I thought that I wasn't going to be able to do the half straights, but it turned out I could. And I soldered the rails together, and then used a caulking that is adhesive to hold a flat piece of brass across there, and then melted zip ties to fill the gap in there, and it actually really works well. I was blown away. You have to put filler strips in the inside in the slot to compensate for the different style of Scalextric rails, because Scalextric uses the rail for the slot, whereas Polycar uses a liner on the inside. So the width of the rail itself the rails are different. But it turned out surprisingly well, and it's a bit of work, a couple days worth of waiting for adhesive to dry so that you can work with it. And then once you start melting in the plastic and stuff, you can see it's still a little rough. I could use some filler in it. Probably I'll use some kind of paint on it to differentiate it. But I think I can make a few of these, and so I can adapt my Scalextric lane changers to my Polycar track, which is coming along pretty well. I've got about 2/3 of the Polycar track built now. And I'm hoping to get some more today or tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. But it is coming along, and I'm excited to be able to do it. And for now, I think I will use it as an analog test track to see how the layout goes, and go from there, and then convert it to oxygen afterwards, probably in a couple of years.
Michael, sorry, for the rough part, have you thought about maybe using some Bondo with a little skim coat or something to smooth it out? You think that would?
Well, the problem, Bondo itself doesn't adhere in thin layers very well. especially to really slick nylon, because the zip ties are really polished kind of nylon that is got rid of somewhat by melting it. It's kind of a funky process to do it, but you sort of melt it right into the Scalextric's track itself, and sort of adhere it. It actually forms a homogeneous mixture, and then you can use it as filler, just like you would if you were welding. If you're using welding and like TIG welding or something like that, you sort of add it in. It's not quite the same as TIG welding because you're not, putting it in and out, in and out, you're more melting a chunk of it off. But the gap across there was 1/4 inch. So it was significant. I think I've got a picture of it.
So basically you're doing like plastic brazing more than anything else. I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's much more like that. And it filled very well. And I filed it down somewhat to try and do that. You have to be a little bit careful. And I'm, of course, having done only 2 of them, it's a project on its way. So you should, I think I'm going to use aluminum, probably, 3/16 thick or something like that as a base on the bottom. You have to cut I don't know if you can see this rib here. You have to cut that out in order to put that piece in. And there's a little mucking about with where the pieces fit. You can see where I've cut down the inserts there to fit into the polycar. But it went surprisingly well considering. It's not perfect by any means, but it works. We'll see how it works better when I get the more track and actually get it on the track and drive some cars around it. I've run the cars through it statically and it works fine. And it connects up to both edges really fine. But I think the next time, like I said, I will use a thicker aluminum plate rather than the brass piece or the wood piece that I used in the first one, and bond it on a day basis so that it's dead flat. And that way you won't get as much sag on when you're filling the track itself, when you're filling the split in the track, because what happens is it sags down into the void that goes on there. So you have to fill all of that up. And then of course the heat will sort of make a pothole in the track, and then you have to fill the pothole. So it's a process. I wish there was if I figured out some kind of filler that I could use to just fill it and then file it off, that would be better. But I know that automotive Bondo does not work very well in situations where it has to bond on a very thin basis. I mean, it's not adhesive enough to the material. Although I haven't tried it with this track. I've tried it on cars and stuff like that. So I do know that but having just a little bit there, I might try some automotive spot putty. That might make a difference, and I'll see how that adheres.
Well, there's a good point. There's some putty that is used in automotive for plastic bumpers too, isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's a possibility.
That might work.
Yeah, because that would adhere to plastic somewhat. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, it's interesting, and I'll try. I've got some pictures of the documentation that I did earlier where I cut it. But surprisingly, you're better off rather than sawing it, with a thin hacksaw or something like that. You're better off drawing a line with a straight edge and keep going through with it, and then just cut it with a X-Acto knife. You get a much better cut, and it cuts fairly easily. I cut out, well, you can see here where I think you can see where I cut out the one section. Yeah, you can see where it's split open.
Yeah, no, I can see. Yeah, for sure.
I just slit that with an X-Acto knife and then cut the bottom of it out. Because you really don't need the slot to be the depth there on it to ride in it.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm kind of chuffed that it works because it'll enable me probably to get a couple at least a year or so of use on a polycar digital track, and especially since the polycar itself is not going to make a pit lane, as I understand it. They aren't going to invest in the tooling for that.
Not yet.
What I'll do is I'll use the base of the APB or Arc Air, whatever I'm going to use as Scalextrics, and use the whole pit lane and have that part Scalextric, and then have the rest of it be polycar. And then, wherever I have a lane changer, I'll have a half straight plus a quarter straight of polycar into and out of the lane changer. And that way I can, spend a little time and have something that'll work for the time period that I've got. So anyway,
And
that's
again,
me for today. And I'm going to
I was gonna say, Michael,
Good questions.
that's quite realistic when it comes to racetracks, because we're having the Indy in Toronto on the 16th, and it goes from tarmac to concrete back to tarmac. So there are a lot of racetracks that have that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What did you want, Dennis?
Just two comments. Number one, when it comes to filling with your melted zip ties, can you not just turn that whole thing over and fill from the bottom with it lying down with the track itself lying down on a flat surface? That'll stop some of the sagging that you're talking about. The
sagging, yeah, I agree with that, except that it's difficult to hold it down. I might try it the next one beforehand and see if that would work, because I did think of that, but it's so floppy in the middle there that I was afraid it would break out if I didn't have any kind of backing behind it.
Then the other thing is, obviously so far you've always taken the Scalextric piece and split it and spread it. Did you consider taking a polycar piece and splitting it and collapsing it?
I did, but that weighs the piece of polycar track rather than the Scalextric track, and I have excessive Scalextric track.
I was gonna say, if you leave Scalextric track in a box, it'll just replicate. So I can see why you're doing that.
I understand that.
It's strictly a financial thing. If I have to, and not only that, but if I make a mistake, then I got to go buy another piece of track, and it's expensive enough as it is.
It's just something to consider in terms of how much time and effort you spend trying to fill a gap, as opposed to how much time and effort you spend just trying to reconnect two pieces that have been squashed together.
Yeah, it's a good point. You're going to have to split the Scalextric track anyway at the between the rails, because that has to be widened no matter what.
Michael, maybe you should let Maurizio know what you're doing. You may have saved him a ton of time and development with all of your.
Well, he's probably got something coming anyway.
Oh, I would think so. I mean, they've already got one to Ninco. I've actually thought about getting one of the Ninco to Scalextric adapters and just chopping the ends off and plugging it in and then welding it together. That would probably be the easiest route to do it. You're muted, Dennis.
You get a Ninco to Scalextric adapter, and then you get a Ninco to polycar adapter, and you plug the two Ninco parts together, and you're done.
Well, then you got to go Scalextric to Scalextric Sport. So you got three of them then, and it's doable. You can do it that way, but you have this huge, 6 foot long straight in between every lane change, which isn't practical, and that's the reason I did it. I get that it's doable that way. But number one, it's expensive. And number two, hey, I got the stuff and I got extras. Why don't I use it and develop it and see what happens? But that's a good point. I'll take in fact, it just occurred to me, I could use all my heavy duty magnets and glue it and magnetize it down to a flat plate and then start filling from the bottom. That might work. So I'll give that a shot next time. That would make it a lot easier. So thanks for that.
Good. Okay.
Finally, a use for magnets.
Yeah. I doubt Slotted is ever going to do Polycar to Sport, just because of all this lane space nonsense.
John, I got some.
Yeah, he's got a stack of magnets, that's for sure. Yep. All right, good update.
That's gonna throw the Earth off its axis, for crying out loud.
Especially if we all get together someday with all of our extra magnets and just make a giant.
And we'll tilt the Earth.
All right, thanks, Mike. Let's move on to Mr. Rose. Go ahead, Jim.
Good morning, everybody. I went to my favorite slot car store the other day, Walmart, and got some stuff. So thought I'd share a little bit on what I'm doing with some of their pieces. I heard Greg talking about the Nationals, and I missed like the first 10 minutes off and on because I was out making lunch. So I've got some stuff on here on the Nationals too. But these plastic boxes are $1.44 at Walmart.
Oh, geez.
And they stack, they nest. So if you have 2 or 3 or 4 of them, you can stack them on top without them falling over too easily. And this is what I made them into. And they're just perfect for a pair of tires. And I just cut out foam with scissors. And so now I've got a container that will hold 10 pair of tires. So it works out very nicely. And I got crazy with my label maker as well. So, and then I got crazy with making tires. So we're working on the slot at Nationals, obviously. And I also heard Greg talking about a tech block just for the was it a tech block or a setup block just for the Nationals?
Both. I mean, basically, it's a block with fake, the relief for the braid and the slot, the slot depth and everything. So it's basically a plastic block that's supposed to be like the electric jeans track surface and slot and braid.
I took a shot at doing a tech block, not for the braid or anything like that, but just for checking the ride height at about 32 thousandths, 8.8 millimeters. And this is what I came up with. And I don't know, you may want to comment if you think this would work or not. It's strictly for checking the ride height in the rear because they measure it under the axle.
Yeah,
so
I was getting Dennis's feedback on my idea, and he suggested not putting the 0.8 riser there because you want the wheels to be supporting the car, and then you want to use a feeler gauge because that's how they're going to do it. If you have that thing, it's going to be basically, holding up the chassis. So if you're
well, that's at that's at
better.
That's at 0.8 millimeters. So if the car is legal, that should not hit.
If the car is legal, then the tires will touch the surface. Now, as a tech block, this is not too bad of an idea. As a setup block,
no, it's not a setup block at all.
It works.
It's not a setup block at all. Strictly, and we use the same ride height. We use 32 thousandths, which is virtually the same.
The thing that worries me always about blocks like this is if you put a car on there and you pick it up to have a look at it and you start tilting it slightly, it slides right off the bloody block because the rear tires are not on the track, or they're not enough on the track or on that surface for enough friction to keep the car on the tech block.
If the tires slide off, then the car is too low because that little rib will hit the chassis. The tires should be flat on the track or on the tech block.
If there's enough pressure on your tire to stop it sliding, that means that you have less than 0.32 thousandths clearance there, or more than 0.32 thousandths clearance.
Right. Which is the point, isn't it? That if the car slides off that, then it's too low.
Jim, just a different comment is that takes no consideration of the fact that the tires might compress a little when you put the weight of the car on the tires.
Well, neither does any other setup block or tech block.
A tech block without that dimple on it would allow the car to put the weight on its tires.
If the car hits that dimple, it's illegal.
As long as that tech block is used by everybody to take everybody's car.
No, I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it, Dennis, just for a simple, easy pre-check. I wasn't suggesting it be the one we use. So it's just if it's close on that, then you can measure one that's probably more precise. But if it's If it clears that, shouldn't be any problem on a real one. So just a thought.
This is all why I did. I printed a feeler gauge and did it and did the block without a riser on it.
How accurate did you manage to print that feeler gauge?
I mean, it's accurate enough for me. It's 0.8 millimeters in thickness. I haven't measured it, but if it's 0.805, I don't care.
The other reason doing it,
I'm not going to be going. I don't think I'm going to be going down that low, anyways. I really don't think I'm going to be going down that low.
the other reason for the way I did it is theoretically the chassis can be lower than 32 thousandths. It's measured under the rear axle, and that's where that little rib is. And that's why I put the window in there so you can see exactly under the rear axle if it hits there. If the side of the chassis is lower than 32 thousandths, technically it's legal.
One thing you have to remember too, though, is if the gear is below the chassis, you have
Not
to
on an
measure
inline
it
car.
the year.
This is made for inline cars for this specific race.
Gotcha. You're right.
And all of the cars I run have the gears, even the Sidewinder cars have the gears above the chassis plane, or what do you want to call it?
Good. Yeah, that makes it okay.
But you're right. You're right.
Who's building a house? I keep hearing somebody pounding and moving blocks.
As a reminder to people who missed the beginning of the show before I went live, my kitchen is being demolished right now because of a leak that caused water damage. So I'm trying to stay muted.
Bummer.
But you're gonna hear a lot of that. So yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Are you all done, Jim? We'll assume
Yeah, that was it.
All right, thank you, Jim. Let's move on to Mr. Dodd. Go ahead, Martin.
Hi guys, just a quick one to show you. Ford Mustang from Carrera. Can you see that all right?
Is that a Group 5? What is with the...
That's that GTY or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
It's like an interpretation of a Mustang.
Does that car actually exist?
No.
Yeah, Martin's got one there in his hands.
Where's all the Thunderslot haters? Come on, get some hate for Carrera.
This is like half the price of an SR car. They're just amazing value. They're heavy.
I think it looks cool.
It looks smart, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Did anyone else notice how quickly he managed to paint it? It was white, then he lowered it off the screen, lifted it back, and it was blue.
You want to see what I do for my other
wow,
trick?
he's good.
And for my next trick.
You said those are Carrera? Those are Carrera.
Yeah, Carrera, yeah.
So how much are they, Martin?
£46 each. With lights.
With lights, yeah. Yeah, because they're including lights in their analog cars again, I think.
Spare blades, 3.
The bodies weigh 35 grams without the lights.
Yeah.
I tell you what they do, Ray.
See, I didn't even ask.
118 grams.
I was about to say we should run a competition and guess who gets closest. Yeah.
Well, that's
going to go for 120.
I was going to say over 100 for sure.
118.
The new BMW, the M4 BMW by Carrera is 135 grams.
That's for the 143rd scale.
No, that's for the 132nd.
But it is very pretty though.
See what you started, Wayne? It's all about weight loss now. Way to go, Wayne. It's all about the weight.
So doesn't that make it a bit slow to go around the track then, Martin?
It's an awful car.
They're not the quickest, to be fair, but they go quite well. I mean, I haven't raced them yet. I've only done a few test laps with them. But yeah, they go quite well. I had to change the the guide to the red guide. They come originally with the 2 black guides, so I've had to change it to the red guide.
Now you're going to use them as a club level class or just at home?
Just at home. They go okay.
I've done mine with the regular guide in it. You know, put one of those pieces in there.
Yeah.
But I haven't I haven't tried it as a non-magnet car because the wheels are massive, and I haven't found anything appropriate for it yet. Let me measure. They're crazy wide. The barrel on it, the part where the wheel sits, is 18 millimeters alone, just for that. You know, so it's, and then of course it has the. Actually, I think these are one-piece wheels. The ones that I have. This is an earlier one. These are one-piece wheels rather than the new two pieces of crap that Carrera is using these days, with different size outside edges of the tire and everything. So I haven't really tried it as a non-magnet car, but it was dismal as a magnet car for sure. So we'll see. I might give her another try. But the wheels are kind of a turnoff for me as far as the size goes, because they're way oversized.
That must lead to quite a large ground clearance, I imagine.
Well, let's see.
I didn't ask for a measurement, but you know, anything above about 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters is going to be large.
Yeah, it's 2.2 millimeters, and I've ground the tires down. So it's pretty high.
Still, when you race them against each other, that's good. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't like them enough to order another one. It's, you know, it's kind of a fantasy anyway. So, you know, the lack of real accuracy sort of turned me off to it. It's kind of a cool car, but it is fantasy totally. It has nothing to do with the way the Mustangs look in real life.
All right, I think we're done with show and tell, unless somebody else out there has something they want to show and tell. Not hearing any, let's move on to Club Corner. Anybody got any racing they want to talk about? Raise your hand, or just start talking. Go ahead, Russ.
Okay. Mine's real simple, Greg. I just wanted to ask you how our new attendee went last night. I didn't make it because I had an accident at the house.
Yeah.
You can see by my throat.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I thought that was a shadow at first, so I'm sorry that you got hurt. I guess we'll have to hear about that.
I tell you what, for everyone here, if you have your dog go around your house, my dog sleeps at the foot of the bed on the floor. And especially if he feels like he's getting warm. So anyway, I bumped him a couple of steps in the middle of the night, probably 2 o'clock in the morning, lights are off. I started stumbling. I fell from head level all the way to a dresser that's about 42 inches high. I hit my jaw right in here and came all the way on here and busted underneath my neck. But I swear to God, I thought when I hit that, I mean, I've been in some tough stuff, but when I hit this thing, I really thought I was going to die because it was so painful. So please be careful for your pets. I have to share that. Anyway.
Well, glad you're not bad.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, we had a new competitor last night, night before last. The guy who bought my portable track a few months ago, I had invited him to come race with us, and he was able to come this past Monday. And he's not completely new to slot cars. He used to race the fast cars over at Pacific Slot Car Raceways and stuff. So he had his own controller. He just hadn't driven a car in a few years and wasn't really used to doing the non-magnet scale models. He was used to doing the Lexan body metal chassis cars.
Right.
But it didn't take him very long before he got up to speed, as they say, and ended up winning a couple of heats
Really?
and you know it was not last at the end of the night. And and now I'm reminded I need to send him an email with the links for the Moslers because he wants to get a Mosler and race with us on the next series.
Ah, cool.
So
Cool.
probably be regular, you know, for the nights that he can attend. He's gonna start attending.
All right. Cool.
So that
I
worked out.
was thinking about it since then. Wanted to ask you. So cool. That's good to know. So anyway, sorry guys, but it's important business.
It is. All right, I'm all done. Are you done then, Russ?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Henry, what you got?
Let's unmute first. Share screen. What I've got over here. Can you see the leaflet?
Yeah, a 100-kilometer race for real?
To scale?
This is an NSR. And we go to Spain
Okay.
2.5 weeks ago, and I raced on this track. And it's about a track of 50 meters, 55 meters.
Henry, that looks suspiciously like Catalonia.
Yep.
It is.
In Spain, of all places. Fantastic.
Yeah. And they hired a local venue, something over there. And that was our place for Fridays and Saturday. And I came to the organization on Friday, and we had 2 hours of training. But for us, it was only 20 minutes because we had problems on this corner at the front. And I was standing right at the other side. So it was about 25 meters, and my antenna didn't work. And before we had to know, before we knew what it was, yeah, I was almost out of time.
So was that that was a range issue based on which antenna, your chip or your controller?
First, I had the SCP-3 with wireless, and then I took the SCP-3 with a wire on it. It didn't make the difference. We had a repair on the antenna, and we make a longer antenna. And from the guys over there, they said, don't ever mess with your antenna on the chip.
Yeah,
Don't make it longer, don't make it thicker, don't do anything with it. Because of the story of Mauricio, it's exact. It has to be exact. So another thing learned. And then we get, of course, the handout motor and the handout tires for the race. And I'm checking the RPM, if I've got a good motor. Now, this is, of course, the H&B car. Beautiful painting by Mark.
Here. Very, very visible color, that. I like that.
Yeah. You know the orange colors, of course, of the Dutch football team. And but you can see we only had a beautiful car. They all make beautiful cars. And this is long, I can tell you that. And this is Randy for the HEB team, up number 10. So, yeah, if you classify in the best time, you're in the middle. But if you don't, you're on the other side. You have a good view on your right, but you don't see nothing on the left. So the trick is to get control, and Wayne does know, keep the car in your finger. But when your car is 25 meters away, that's not always easy to get a real good control of your car. Do you have the same problem with that, Ray, or not?
I'm not
Wait.
sure your question.
I'm sorry, my attention was distracted. Go ahead.
Car is about 25, 30 meters away. Do you have always the exact feeling on your car?
It can get a little vague because the hand-eye coordination is yeah, it's not as immediate as you would think, but yeah, you get used to it.
Yeah. Okay. But it's not always easy. Now, this is a friend of Slotforum, Malavala. And he doesn't speak one word of English, so we had a very good conversation. It's not getting better as thumbs up.
You mean he can't even say slot car?
No, Koche. They say Koche. And the first night we were treated by Henrique, and he spoke very fluent English. And we were taken to a local store over there, eating tapas. And this is the local thing they do over there with other communities. And this was very, very spectacular. You see the
Henry, that's a hell of a way to celebrate a win.
absolute. The top guy or girl is about 5, 6 years old, and the biggest one is 8 stories high, or 8 people high. They call it the human pillar. And you see all those guys here around. They're about 150, and they all are part of that pillar. And you see here on the left, the guy is strapping his waist. Otherwise, you cannot handle the pressure. So back to slow car again. It was they were on top of it. It was a very, very professional organization. I can't say nothing about it. They were very good hosts, very friendly. I've never met so many nice people with the same aim to race. It's a lot of different than if I drove these races in Best. It's yeah, I cannot say that something else about that.
Henry, how many people were participating as racers?
Teams, 11 teams times 3, 33.
Hey, can I ask a question about your antenna?
Yeah.
So there's a chip with an antenna receiver and transmitter on the car, and then there's one in your controller.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and it has to have two-way communication to both.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both transceivers.
What kind of do you happen to know? Like, is it just like a omnidirectional antenna out of your controller, or is it more directional, like parabolic? Do you have any? Is it like a wire in there that just is floating?
You see the small black wire that's coming out of the circuit board and going straight to 6 p.m. on that picture?
Yes.
That's a coaxial cable of around 32 millimeters in length, and that's identical.
That's the antenna.
That's the antenna, and it's identical in your controller.
Okay, so it goes out omnidirectional. I was just trying to think, because I used to design parabolic antennas, and I wonder if you could do something to point that signal towards your car. When your hand was down, if your hand is holding the controller and your hand is down, like a donut around the antenna, it's gonna go out. So if you hold it this way, if this is your antenna, the signal will go out around it like a donut. So if you're pointing it down, the donut's going down into the ground. But if your antenna's this way, then it's going to go a wider range. Just something to keep in mind when you're doing it. But I mean, if it was me, I don't have this. I don't do digital like this, but I would think about some way having a directional antenna, but just so you can have more to reach that 25-foot or 25-meter length you needed.
I put in another chip, and the problem was gone.
Oh, there you go.
Well, honestly, Jeremy, the distance that Henry's covering in that hole there is not as far as we regularly do with up to 16 cars in the sports hall when we race the Le Mans race. Now, it's not unheard of for a team to have a radio interference problem, let's call it that, or else a communication problem. I've been in a team that had one in 2019, and we eventually located that to a fault, and it was an antenna fault, and it was in the controller, which had got thousands of hours on it. And it wasn't until we switched out our controller that we solved the problem. But the problem was intermittent, and it wasn't there. It was only there for like a half of a second, and you would only occasionally get it.
Yeah.
But you would be on the straight, for example, and if you lift on the straight for half a second, your car almost, well, it slows right down to a ridiculously low speed. It's a danger to itself and everyone in the same lane. And we had a problem where our car would occasionally just momentarily, apparently, stutter on the straight, and it was only on the straight. So we had enough range in all the infield, all the stuff that was close to us, and on the far side of the hole, we would get this momentary lift that we couldn't stop. And we went through all the way through practice with it, couldn't identify it, went into the race. It got to a point where it was a bigger problem than it had been in practice. And then by a process of elimination, which included changing firmwares and faffing around basically with the oxygen system, we eventually got the loan of another controller, and that solved the problem. But we were already way down the field and spent the whole of the last race trying to catch back up.
Yeah, that's why it's always it cost me the whole training, because you're looking for it. And what Wayne says, I only had it for 2-3 meters. It was out of control, but on the farthest piece of the track. But you don't want that. So I put in another chip laying around, and I tested that chip, but I don't see nothing fancy with it. But from the one problem, I went to the other problem. I just show you a picture of how long the track is and the straight, and we're always missing about in speed 1.5 meters. So our first thought was, okay, we have a slow motor. But after the race, and then in the race, I went in a corner, I spinned, the car spinned, came on the track again, and drove the other direction. And that's not possible with oxygen. So I took the car out after the race.
SSD.
I checked the chips, and it was in the SSD mode. And the SSD mode, you can see here on the screw, it's in another place with the normal chip.
Which one of those two? Which one of those two screws is the important one there? Then Henry.
For as I know, the right one is the good one, and the left one is the bad one.
So that one needed to come up the empty hole that's adjacent to it, yeah?
Yeah.
What happens behind that screw is there's a piece of circuit board, or there's two.
Correct.
And you put the screw in to basically connect two tracks together.
Yeah.
Or in the other hole, it will connect two different tracks, and that will switch it between SSD and oxygen mode, yeah?
Yeah. The difference between those two is it goes through a connector, or how do you call a weerstand?
Diode. I think it goes through a diode, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes through a diode, and then you lose 1.50 volts. So that's why we lose 1 meter, 1.5 meter on the straight again. Because that's the difference between 36 kilometers per hour and 38 kilometers per hour. If you drive 2,300 laps, you're always losing, because you have to find those 1 meter, 1.5 meter in the different section. But okay, this is the second, because we drove 10 hours. And as you know in the pictures, the cars drive only on the brakes. The tires, the front tires are not on the track. So the left one died. And we had to do again a mandatory change of tires. But it costs you all about 10, 11 minutes. So another 50, 60 laps down to the drain.
Are those the two tires that came off the car? Is one significantly smaller than the other?
Yes.
So your rear left was experiencing a lot more wear than the right one.
Yeah, correct. It was all rounded on the edges.
Okay, so you're not allowed to glue those tires to the wheels then?
No, you ain't.
And they were starting to roll off the rim, weren't they, at that then, to get onto the sidewall like that?
Yeah, I didn't recognize it in the race if it had strange behavior, but I recognized the left brake because we had no connection anymore. So this is the group of racers, wonderful people. Can't tell nothing about it. It was a lovely experience. This is the winners, and this is Miguel, our English translator. He helped me, and it was a wonderful host. And yeah, we're not a winner, but we're on the photo. And afterwards, we had a supper with the whole team, and yeah, those are the 3 winners. And we are we go and we say, okay, we're driving in the Lion's Den. We never drove this kind of car. We didn't drive ever without the tires in front up. Let's see what it does. And if we're going last, we were hoping not to get last. No, we didn't. So preparation for the next time, and we will better prepare talk next time. It doesn't this place, 10 place, it doesn't give us a shit because we had the time of our life. And that's always say something about the driving in Spain. If you drive a disco race, how do your car look after it, Wayne?
Well, that depends on how many cars are on the track and the standard of the ability level of the drivers. But did you lose that grill? Is that all you did? Is that all that happened?
Nothing more, and not one scratch.
Yeah, you did pretty good there, didn't you? How many hours did you say? 10 hours in the light.
Yeah, but it all says something about the attitude and the racing in Spain, because it's on a high level. I can tell you that. There are around Barcelona. There are 24 clubs. We have only 5 clubs in the whole Netherlands. And they all drive Ninco, and when they are 12, 13 years old, they're going to try rally. So they know Ninco.
I'm sorry, Henry, how many clubs were there in Spain? Sorry?
Only around Barcelona. So that's the capital of Spain. There are about 20, 24 clubs. I think if we're talking about Spain at all, maybe 100 clubs. And we have in Holland 5 of 5 or 10, 15, but serious clubs, maybe 5. And there is only 1 club with Ninco. So we don't have a lot of experience also with Ninco. It's different ball game than driving on Carrera or on a wooden track.
Yeah, so, here in the UK, we have maybe 5 clubs that host races on Ninco, but Oxygen digital races. There is 1 permanent Oxygen track that I know of.
Yeah.
And it's in London.
Yeah.
And apart from that, everyone else lays Ninco on top of wood tracks. And they occur at each venue once per year. So there might be 6 or 7 races in the year.
Yeah.
For us to do Ninco Oxygen races.
If you go to a club in Spain, a normal club, it's got about 5, 6 tracks over there. In every sort, rally raid, Ninco Oxygen, the whole stuff. It's a very, very big slot car country. And they know the stuff, and they can drive.
So you're going to get your teammates to prepare the car for next year then, Henry?
Sorry?
Are you going to get one of your teammates to prepare the car for next year's entry?
Oh, the car was good enough. It wasn't the car. If you lose half a volt on your car, then you're not a major player anymore. And one of the guys was Igor, and he drove it for the first time Oxygen on such a big track. So when we took over of him for his stint, we were already 70 laps down. So he had a lot of problems with braking and rolling and etc. etc. So it's for some people it was an experience to learn. And we're going back next year. That's for sure, because I think we can do a 6 or 7 place over there. That's possible.
For anyone that hasn't done large scale plastic track racing like that, it does take on a completely new complexion, doesn't it? Because the braking distances, depending on how you've got things set, but the braking distances can be 2 meters, 3 meters, which is as long as some people's main straights in just a braking zone, isn't it?
The guy was with us, Igor. He normally drive on a wooden track, and he's a good driver. But he's got a full brake at the end. And with Ninco, you want to roll around the corners, so he has to adjust his driving again and find a way to do it. But it took 10 hours. But it doesn't matter. We had a lot of fun. We had, you go to the hotels. It's another environment. It's 35 degrees, etc., etc. And there are all lovely people. So it was a venue, really. And I'll come back. That's for sure.
Well, I'm envious a little bit. I wish I was there with you. It looked like you had a great time.
Yeah, you can go with us next year.
There you go.
Can you see the cogs beginning to whir?
Hey, you can get teams of 5 people, so no problem.
There was a disco race, part of the Euro series. It was in Igualada, and they used polycar track for a similar layout, a Catalunya circuit anyway. I don't know if it was all polycar, but certainly there was a lot of polycar in it. And certain members of the British contingency went to that, and I heard great reports about that. And there was a time when the Le Mans 24-hour race had lost its venue and couldn't see a future to finding a large enough hall at the right kind of price to actually run it again. And there was a time when one of the Spanish clubs, I think it was the Crick Crack venue, was actually going to be the future host for the Le Mans 24. So there was a severe danger that we would have had to have gone down to Barcelona to do that race, which I certainly would have done. But for a smaller one, I haven't yet done so. But I did look at the cost of flights back then, and it does depend on the time of year and when you book and all those things, but they weren't all that expensive.
Correct. There's this is a series. It's the Oxygen series, and they do 5 matches. One is again in October, and one in December, something like that. So I just had a look. It's only 200 euros to fly over there, but you have to land in Barcelona again, and then you have to drive for 4 hours because it's another location. I think that's a little bit too much. But the cost now, well, 350 for the flying and 50 for the suitcase, so about 400 euros. I think it wasn't cheap. And my wife was with me.
You can buy a fair few slot cars with what you've spent on travel.
And I was with the wife with me, so it cost about 10 times. But we have fun. Now we stay there also for 10 days, so we had a little. We made a little vacation of it. It was like this. I came home. I said, "Do you ever seen Barcelona?" "No," said my wife. "Do you want to go to Barcelona?" "Yeah, I do." "Okay, I'm going to race there." So that was the deal. So that's it.
All right, good stuff.
That looked like you had an awesome time. Well done.
Yeah,
thank you.
All right, good stuff. Thank you for sharing. And anybody else have any club corner they want to talk about, or should we just open the floor for questions and other slot car related things? I'm not seeing anybody jumping up and down, so I guess Talk about what you want to talk about. I'll just sit here and wait.
Okay, I have one thing. How when you have a club and you're, everybody's friendly, but somebody, I'm gonna tell a story here. It's not about anybody in particular, so in case everybody's watching. So we raced last week, and I was coming around on the inside lane, and this person was battling me for a second. He was coming on the outside lane. As we came into the turn, I know it's a tricky turn. He's kind of new to the club. I hit my brakes immediately because I know I'm going to have to slow down and come out of it. I come around the turn. He doesn't brake as soon as me. He bounces off the wall, bounces back in, hits me off. I'm in the inside of my lane. He's on the outside. And when we go to restart, the track has to stop because we block traffic. Because the rule in our club is like the person who causes the accident should go behind the person that was innocent. And the person putting the cars together put me in front. And the person that caused the accident started complaining, like, "Hey, wait, you were on the inside of me. You caused the accident." And I was like, "No, I didn't cause the accident." Come on. So it became a whole kerfluffle. And I was like, "How do you?" And now, of course, the guy wiped out 2 more times in the next 2 laps, so it didn't matter. But how do you deal with people that are like being a baby, basically? Like, we're just here to have fun. But the whole mood then after that just kind of dropped because it was just kind of a weird. You're like, dude, come on. So do you guys ever have these incidents in your club where you like one person's just a whiner or being a baby, or do you just let it go? I mean, it was bizarre to me.
Flip a rigged coin. Go ahead.
What was that, John?
Flip a rigged coin.
Flip a rigged coin.
Sure.
I mean, you might as well. I mean, what I was gonna say is, I mean, there's always the guy who wants to whine a little bit more than other guys. What I usually
Always.
Yeah. What I usually do to kind of discourage arguing about who caused an accident is, I give them examples about how I've had video of accidents where both drivers thought, the wrong thing. Like they agreed that one of them was responsible, but they were both wrong. When I reviewed the video, I saw exactly what happened, with one car tailing out and tagging, and then the other one, it's so many things go into that, sometimes it looks obvious, but sometimes it's not. And just to not, just don't. But yeah, you guys have a rule, where the person responsible is put behind the person who's not responsible. So you're there. That's kind of going to be inevitable that somebody's going to get bent about getting put behind another person.
One solution for that is live marshals. If you have live marshals and they always have that mindset, which is marshal the victim, then marshal the culprit, then the marshal in that corner is the judge and jury. The decision is made. The cars are back on the track and gone before anyone can really even complain.
Yeah, we've been using marshals recently too, but we just didn't have enough marshals this day. So it's just one of those weird things. And this person's joined our club and is used to winning in his old club, being the top dog at his old club. Yeah. So it's just been kind of a weird situation.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing how other people handle.
My opinion is it's, and Greg's told me through this quite a bit. It's best just to let it go. Just if it's going to go that far that it causes big problems, just let it go. Hell, there's more race nights. It's not worth it.
No, I know, but there comes a point where I'd been letting it go, and I was just like, I'm not going to let this stop. I'm not going to stand my ground. I'm not going to. But I mean, I could have. I could have just turned the other cheek and been. But
at some point, I think the director needs to get involved with this gentleman and just say, hey, if you don't like the way the marshaling's being done, don't come out.
Yeah.
And shut him down. At one of my clubs, we actually, if you give the marshals too much of a headache or the other drivers, they get docked laps.
Yeah.
There was a Formula One director. He's fired, and he said, "Hey, it's racing."
Yep.
Now, when you go in the outside lane, and you want to fetch another guy, then you always have a problem, because when the others in the inside is drift a little bit, you're going off. So you take the risk in a corner. So do it on a straight or else, and don't whine and race, because you're whining. It costs you 7 seconds, and when you get a good marshal, you are in again in 2 seconds and race.
Exactly.
I've got an idea. Get yourself a plastic trophy, apply some heat and bend it quite seriously. Then get some broken slot car parts and glue them to that trophy. Put a plaque on the front and call it this week's loser. And then it can be awarded on a weekly basis to whoever you think has got the poorest behaviour, but it's all done tongue-in-cheek, light-hearted, and it's a happy way to resolve a solution for embarrassment.
Well, if there's a trophy involved, I'm going to try to win that trophy as well.
Also, very good in Spain. If you do a collision with a lane changer, you get a stop and go immediately. So the rules were very looked at. If you had 2 times a stop and go, you will learn it, because a stop and go it costs you 8 seconds. Bye bye, another lane gone.
To add to some of the ideas to help avoid this or reduce it, like Frank was saying, that's racing. We say that all the time. That's racing. Yeah, even if it was your fault, let's say it was your fault that you had slid out a little bit and knocked him off. He's trying to pass you on the outside. That's just, unless you have a great amount of respect and trust of the person on the inside to keep it clean,
pass them.
which is rare. Don't try to pass them on the outside. Yeah, but then it's marshal discretion. The marshal, even if you do a track call, whoever's at that corner, it has, like I think Wayne was saying, judge and jury. That's it. Don't come off if you're going to complain about the results of coming off. Finally, one of the things that we do sometimes is, don't assign blame at all, and just put the cars back on where they ended up. Right, so if you guys ended up side by side, then they're going to start back out side by side. If you ended up rolling 2 or 3 feet because you were not in the slot and it just kind of coasted, that's where you go. That's where you go back in. But that doesn't always work. So some of the guys are like, oh well, I think you came out way back there, so that's where we're going to put you, and you came out over here, so that's where we're going. But it wasn't. So it's like, go with whatever rules you have, add a rule or two. But if somebody's being a real a-hole, then encourage them to find another club to race with.
There you go.
Yeah, well, if you don't have that many people around, that makes it difficult. You're going to have to handle this situation.
But if you've got somebody like that, you're never going to have more people around, because as soon as you get a new person in, they're going to experience that person and say, nope.
I mean, is it like an everyday thing every week?
This guy's new, right?
It's every week?
No, it's this is just the first time it's ever popped up, but it's also the first time I've ever pushed back, because I usually just let that shit go and then I'll pass them later. But it's just like the way the angle and where I landed on the inside of my lane. Like if I had swung out and hit him and we both entered the corner, I'd been like, yeah, that's probably me. But the fact that I saw it bounce out, hit me, stop, move me inside, I was like, wait, how was it my fault? And I was in one of those moods where I was not going to let somebody walk on me. So it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen.
And he was
Usually I just let it go.
He was probably in the same mood. Like he's used to pushing on it and getting his way.
Right.
He got even more mad that you were pushing back.
And, like I said, in his old club, he does remind us, at least every time we race, that he's the top guy in his old club. I was like, okay, well, they're not here, so settle down.
Something tells me we're just getting Jeremy's side of the story here, because we all know.
Yeah, absolutely. You are just getting my side of the story. I will admit that.
I'm not sure I'm believing this at all.
I wouldn't believe anything I say.
I think it was Brian. Brian was the other guy.
We're not racing for money, so I have no reason. I just curious how you guys handle that, because there's got to be other clubs that have had people that are just kind of babyish.
Jeremy,
I mean, it happens all the time. In every club I've ever been in, there's always that one guy that's like,
I don't think it would help your situation because you were taken off, but if you ran crash and burn, it really encourages people to stay on.
But then
I wouldn't
sometimes
be.
they get more upset when they get knocked off.
I wouldn't be able to race if I race, crash, and burn.
Well,
It'd be no fun for me.
Either.
it's I maintain it's the best way to teach people to learn to drive is crash and burn. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of funny you mentioned that. 'Cause
Yeah, but
we
that's
used
for
to
your old
race crash
analog
and burn for like 10 years, and you had 3 outs. Once you had your 3 out, you were done. So that did kind of keep people in line, because when you had your second out, you just want to get laps. You didn't want to go out and then be down 12 laps at the end of the race. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, but not too long ago, I had an incident where a guy actually pulled another car off the track, and a competitor's car, if you remember that. And that stuff, I really don't want to see that guy there again. I really don't. And the problem is he's a very prominent chassis builder, and so he's around, but he's just a poor sport. And it's like, anytime I've never seen anything like that at all. The only thing I did as a marshal, I was marshaling at that point. As a marshal, I would just take extra time before I put his car on, because it's just
Good job. Good job.
It's like, oh, I'll look at the braids. Oh, it looks okay. There are ways.
Submissive.
If we got a couple cars
No,
that crack,
You're marshaling a car. Oh, let me check those tires. Oh, you're.
One fell off.
Oh no, sorry. Let me put that back on for you.
That's not straight.
Lane, was it?
you know what? If 2 cars crash, and they obviously had something where they collided and had both cars crash, why not just pick them up, put them on the track next to each other, and there. Now you're equal no matter what. You were passing or trying to get past when he got hit. Just set them next to each other, and if he starts crying, just go, stop being a crybaby. You're next to the person you were trying to pass, or put your controller down, shut up, and go marshal. Bye.
Yeah, if you're so good, you should be able to pass them again, no problem.
Yep, you should be able to catch him,
all.
no problem.
The problem
Or
is,
tell them go past. You know what? You think you should be in the lead, so from now on, when you crash, put your controller down,
And
go
marshal
put
it
your car
yourself.
back, walk back to your controller, and then we'll start the race. Have a nice day.
I still like my comedy trophy idea.
If you want to have another race,
We all want to have another race. What's the end of that sentence?
Actually, Wayne, I like your idea, but just go to the dollar store and get a pacifier, and then
Yeah, glue one of those on. Yeah, that'll be great. It just gets better and better.
we actually used to have an award like that at our national championship events. Somebody found a little piggy bank that, those every now and then you get these like a little piggy bank that a bank or an institution will they make them out of some sort of blow molded polyurethane or polystyrene or whatever it is. This particular one was molded in gold, and it had like a little trophy base, and then it had this big banana on it, right? Because it came from what in South Africa is called a building society, which in the US would be a savings and loan, right? And this particular building society was based in the province of South Africa, where bananas were one of the big crops. Okay, and so we had this little thing, and we dubbed it the golden banana, and it was awarded on popular vote at the beginning of a year at the very first national. Then we would generally do it as a popular vote or as by discussion amongst various people as to who made the biggest boo-boo of the day, all right? Whether it be that they fell asleep while they were turn marshalling, or that they connected their controller up wrong, or they put the car on the track the wrong way around, or they made some, or they got themselves into the wrong heat or whatever it was, whatever the biggest boo-boo was. And then at subsequent events during the year, the guy who got it last time was the guy who had to award it the next time, so that you didn't get it twice in a row, because we were, kind of kind to some of those guys. The recipients otherwise would have been kind of repetitive. But it was a fun thing because everybody got into the right spirit, and as much as it was fun to hand this thing out, we always tried to make the presentation ceremony something that people could laugh at by quoting different things that had happened to different people. So we looked for the guy who was going to award this, and I mean, Mike, he was really this bad. He had such a temper tantrum about something. But if you think that's bad, that wasn't as bad, because John was just really terrible, and he did this and this and this. And if you think that was bad, Greg then connected up his car the wrong way around. And if you think that was bad, then Dennis did this and this. But the winner of the whole thing would, and then we would present the winner, But it was a really fun thing, and I don't know whether they still do it in South Africa now, but I hope they do. It was a fun time.
Yeah.
Shall I share another race?
Yeah, go for it.
It's summertime over here. In the summertime, we don't do the actual racing of the calendar. So you can take, if somebody had got 6 cars, then you can put the 6 cars, the same cars, on the track. And then we switch from the cars stay on the track, so 1 to 6, and we change the racer. So you race first at 1, then at 2, then at 3, then at 4, but everybody got the race, the same car. Do you understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Henry, are those the carts that you designed and printed?
Yeah. And this time I was the happy one to choose the 6 cars, and I built 7 cars. And this was the first time we did some practicing with it last year, but now I had 7, so one spare. And this time it was the first time that we raced them. I have a race on YouTube video, but I will not show it over here because it's terrible to do YouTube videos.
All different front tires. Did I see aluminium wheels, plastic wheels, coated
Correct.
tires, uncoated tires?
Correct. This one I started with, and at the end I found it a little bit expensive. So those are 3D printed. This is also the second one I built is original, but those are 3D.
You must use Goss wheels, 3D printed wheels. So they're wonderful.
And these are the Scale Auto 16 mil wide tires, and these are the old plastic bumpers, and now I used flex bumpers. So, and there is one new one I made. This is the Sidewinder, and that's easier to build, and they all are angle winders.
Nice.
But this gear mesh. It's got a better pitch. So this is the first time we raced them. Now it was one hell of a success. We had a lot of fun with it, and every year we have a meeting in which car we're going to drive, and I think we will vote on that. I will make more cards. Because they loved it. It's something really different. It's about the scale 120, 122, and they just fit on our track because the width is a bigger than a 132 scale, but they're not really open tires because the tires are just as width as the body is. So we didn't have any problem with collisions for that sake. And they drove about 31, 32 kilometers per hour with a 20,000 RPM motor. And it was a blast.
Can imagine.
It's something totally different.
Very cool. I love all the detail you did. It's really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Drives so much better than a Ninco or Scalextric.
Oh yeah,
or a Scalextric car.
We have them. The idea came. Frankenslot in Germany had an iron one, an iron chassis.
Yeah.
And the guy who drives it was out of proportion, so we didn't like that at all. And I've bought one or two, and other members bought one or two. So we would want to drive it, but in Germany there is something happening over there. They don't ship anymore. We don't know why. It's something about rules and regulations. We don't know. So I ordered 6 cars in Germany, and I didn't get them because he said we don't ship not anymore outside of Germany, and that triggered me. Then I said, okay, if you're not going to sell them, I'm going to make them my own. And this is the result of it.
Henry, do you sell that STL file or anything?
I sell at the moment I'm selling packages of STLs. So I print everything, and because it's also a learning process. How do you can earn something on making a slot car? I don't know how to do that. Maybe they buy a motor for 50 cents, because my motor is the cheapest one is €6.5. So when I build this cart, it's going to cost me €60. I think that's a lot of money, and it's made of 90% of PLA. But you have to buy the tires, the axles, the gearing, etc., etc. So I sell now only the PLA stuff for €25 for the cart, and they can build them their own. And they have to buy their own motor, their own gearing, etc., etc.
But are you willing to share the files?
No, I'm not. Because when my file is on the internet, it has no purpose anymore.
That's a fair point. It's your decision. Which one of these ran best on the night then? The Sidewinder or the angle winders or what? Which one was good?
No, I couldn't say that, but I think the angle winders are a little bit more noisier, and normally you got a little bit more speed than with a Sidewinder, but they were quite the same. But a Sidewinder is easier to make. It's a lot of fiddling to get the ratio of the angle winder, and besides that, it costs you also a day to make one, because it's all PLA and not one. Every print I make, I don't think every hole is the same. It's always fiddling, and there are a lot of parts in it.
And are they robust enough, or have you been able to break them?
In the beginning, because that's why do you share the STL files? And I understand that, of course. But we did months of practicing and training and look it again. And if in the beginning the front broke, and we had extra material made in it, so it's now really hefty-proof, because they went off the track with 30 kilometers per hour, and that's why also this is PLA, but I make now this one in a flex PLA. So if you go bumper on bumper, it won't break anymore, because at the end it will break.
Have you tried printing anything with TPU filament yet?
This is I think this is called TPU. Is correct, Greg?
Yeah, I believe that's the flexible, resistant.
Yeah. Is it easy? It is easy to print also. but it will do. That's it.
Cool.
For my grandson.
Yeah.
That's
really
cool.
cool.
And we did about 124 laps in a 6 times 3 minutes race. So there were a lot of speed in it. That's it.
Your work on those carts reminds me of, like, remember the sidecar motorcycles that I think Scale Electric had. Nobody's ever made those now in 3D printable, because those seem like the perfect thing because they're so unique and they'll never be brought back. But anyway, Greg, get on that. Let me know when you're done.
Also,
did you ever drive one of those Scale Electric sidecars, Jeremy? Once you own one, you don't want to own one anymore.
No, I know. I'm saying somebody could improve that easily. I mean, I would think. But...
I've seen them also from the same brand of Frankenslot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I think they have improved them. I think they're called cars.
BRM also made the sidecar motorcycles. Those are much nicer.
We just
But they're
ran
1/24.
Hey Greg, we just ran the Ninco in IROC not long ago at VIX, remember? Yeah.
They're not
well,
bad.
They're a neat looking car, but they're just not built there.
I have to interrupt. Dewan, is that your Camaro you're holding there?
No, it's not my Camaro. It was a question I was gonna bring up. No, it's not my Camaro. I haven't finished that one yet. This is actually an old Scale Electric Lamborghini. And I had a question. I'm saying it's old. I've only had it for a few months, but it's anything that says made in England, I'm figuring it has to be really old.
I reckon that comes from the mid 80s or somewhere like that, late 80s.
Yeah, and the question I had is, okay, so the tires are a little bit worn out and everything, but more importantly, this turned out to be a class of cars that I have for my group, for my people, but the issue was they're press-on tires, and it just come right off, and this is
that's how you know you have an authentic Scale Electric car from the 80s.
Yeah, that was pretty common. Yeah.
So
the barrel in the center of the wheel is split, yeah?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's definitely too loose. So I was just gonna say, what do? Do you have to just completely replace the whole rear axle? Can you glue it back in? Is there going to be hope on this at all? Or
but you can try and repair the hub. So you get a piece of brass on, so that's like got an interior dimension that's the outside dimension of the actual wheel, and see if you can slip it on and hold that. Might hold it. And if that doesn't work,
Actually, there's a styrene tubing that I use all the time, especially on my Ninco Le Mans cars, that does it perfectly. And then so it squeezes it together, holds it to the right dimension, and then you can just put a little glue on the inside to go onto the axle.
Okay, good.
That's how I do it.
Those are the kind of tips that I'm looking for. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm good for something once in a while.
It was a blast driving these things around. I have like about 7 or 8 cars, and I have people choose from the box of those cars. I keep a box with the right class of cars, to kind of make them compete against each other. And that was a very popular one. And with the wheel, you're driving, and the wheel all of a sudden just goes off.
Now, Dewan, do those cars have the lights as well? Like,
yeah, they do. They actually do.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because they actually have like brake lights, believe it or not. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
Brake lights that work on the overrun. Is that what you were going to say, John?
Yeah, I'm still. I'm a little lazy. I haven't done the final touch-ups and everything that I need to do for my Camaro. It'll be coming pretty soon.
Yeah, the way that chassis is configured with that brown bar magnet across glued on the underside reminds me a lot of a Porsche 962 that I once owned. I think that is almost identical in the way the chassis is and the motor angled like that.
Yeah, I was questioning that motor angle. I said, "Wow, that's pretty offset from normally. It's pretty, So yeah, you got the motor angled down from the being parallel to the chassis. You can't really tell. Well,
Yeah, and,
you
and those
saw it.
magnets are weaker than a groom after his wedding night.
Well, yeah.
Pull it off and stick a Neo one on. Then they become wicked.
All right, Gio got his hand up. Did you have some help for Dewan, or did you have something you wanted to share or show or talk about? He's getting ready to share. All righty. Be sure to unmute because you're still muted. Go for it.
Can you guys? Okay, cool. So it's just kind of quick update on show and tell actually on these new cars from Scale Auto. So I got to the. Oh, there is someone.
That's the one I didn't like.
Yeah. So basically, this is the new Acura Honda, depending where you are in the world, NSX from Scale Auto. So it's I mean, I think Scala did a good job in recreating this car. Sits pretty well on the track and looks pretty good. Yeah, when this was released, then NSX basically, or actually Honda released the Evo version of this car. So this is not just, it's not the latest one that you can find on a real track. So there are two liveries model, or kind of livered models for this car that are the one that I showed. So I went to put the cat one because I think it's the coolest of the two. So the chassis is the standard gray chassis that they come kind of ship with at the stage. One thing that I really like is that they are using the kind of pro guides for 132. So it's a screw-on guide with I mean, they put like a bit of there is a bit of extra stem here with the sprung. So what I'm gonna do is cut it and basically make it kind of avoiding any kind of up and down movement. So these are pretty good, nice kind of guides that I usually buy and retrofit to my other cars. So before for the GT3, they had like these clip-on type of guides. The rest of the mechanics, basically, I'm gonna throw it away because it's pretty useless for what I'm doing. I don't like the pod. I don't like the wheels. I don't like the tires. I don't like the motor. So it's gonna be basically kind of full rebuild. So the body.
I wish I was close by. I'd say give them to me.
You need, well, yeah.
The wheels are fine. The tires are not great, but the pods are good.
Well, I mean, yeah. So if you basically you can cut to the just making them air, then yeah, sure. Although I think they're pretty small. I mean, they're smaller than the 17-inch. I kind of the 17 mil tires. Although I have to double check on that. Okay, so the body here is pretty flexible and also feels kind of light. The interior is not huge. I mean, given that this is kind of a middle engine car, kind of the interior stops at the kind of where the firewall will be. And when I put on the scale, basically it's 20.3 grams, which is a good starting point. So removing the interiors, because I'm going to put a lightweight one produced, I mean, made by me. So you get to 16.6 grams. Again, the kind of objective here is that once installing lights and interiors should be around the 19-gram mark. That is what we use for GT3. So just removing interiors, basically you get like almost 4 grams savings in weight. Now, as you know, I like to put the lights on the car, and sometimes I go wild with the lights. So I removed all the lenses, and also I don't know. I was kind of thinking maybe to put something behind the grills of the car. So as you can see, I mean, there were a lot of people complaining about Scalato cars coming apart on the track because they had like all these kind of photo etched elements. And so what they're doing now, and I think also Slottage started doing this with the Alpha 155. So basically, you can see that they were like using transparent parts and then put behind some kind of a decals to represent the grid, which is not too bad, I would say, but I still prefer the photo edged part. But anyway, so got all the elements out. In the process, I kind of split the rear lenses, but it's not going to be a big deal. And then what I try to recreate is basically, it's very difficult to see, but what I want to do is, so these cars, the lights basically go all, I mean, the rear red lights basically go all around the light element, right? So the light lens. But so I was thinking to use like one of these long LED bars that I found, but unfortunately here basically, so this is our places where the rear bumper, let's say, in the model is attached to the body, and so there are tabs there, and I cannot basically kind of file them out and just create like a long slot, because otherwise it would be, you know, the rear bumper will be kind of just leaving or kind of attached to the main body, but just these two bits over here, which would be not enough for resisting a rear crash. So what I did, I created like some extra, a bit of extra holes, one here and one here, and then larger the one that are present. And then I start fitting in LEDs as a lot of shock. For the front one, yeah, so basically once you get rid of the lenses, you have quite a deep slot here where you can put LEDs. The kind of the fog lights, so you know, these are small points, these are kind of 4 points here are, but these are molded into the plastic. So the only way in which, if you want to have fog lights, which are pretty kind of it's a normal use by on these cars, so you need to drill holes, and that was the betting way that I was going to do that or not, because failure rate is pretty high. So this is very accurate. So I decided to use these small LEDs. So they are so basically they're very flat, and these are pretty good for doing also kind of details lights for LMP cars, especially on the rear wings. So what I did, so you can see that basically, you know, this compared to the actual lens. So I went for 2 LEDs for each of the front lights. And I don't know if you can see, but these are ones installed in the car. So basically what I did, I just drew a couple of those behind, and then I put 36 AWG wires on them. So I soldered them. And you can see basically the wires coming on the back. And so basically I replicate the same stuff for the other lens. For the fog, so here you can see here basically, yeah. So in order to make sure that the LEDs are aligned with the lip, let's say here of the lens. So I just put a bit of plastic card or something in order to kind of while where the glue was curing behind. And, still didn't look. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, it's not as precise as I would have liked. And this is basically, it's both lenses done. For the rear, so as I mentioned, basically I put an LED here, and then on top basically I put in kind of 5 LEDs along these lines here. So these again, using these small LEDs that were but I have also the red ones, not only the white ones. And you can see the mess of wires coming from back and forth. On the back, I think I have 7 LEDs, and here at the moment I have 4 installed. And then basically starting to kind of route the wires in order to make them, you know, be a bit less messy. And I'm using this black compound here that is liquid electric tape or something. So I want to see how it works. These bits here, I basically decide to go for drilling the holes using my Broxton drill, which works pretty well. You cannot see much, but there are holes there. So the molded fog lights are gone. And for the fog lights, I put these behind each of the hole, I put these with 0 LEDs behind. As I can see here, I put some I paint. I want to have like yellow lights in front, so I just put some transparent yellow paint on top of it. Install it. So the installation was not that easy, but you can see that they are basically put one on top of each other, approximately where the holes are, and put some tape in order to hold them while they were curing. And here, basically, they are installed, but you cannot really see, but this kind of maybe so. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to see, but they are here basically now, or installed. Just to try go quickly now. So again, making a bit more sense of less messy wires management. So these are after basically installing all these LEDs, I got to, so basically it's 2 grams of wires and LEDs. And then I'm using these Lexan indicators from the 720, Sideway 720, which I think is going to be approximately what the one for this car basically is going to weigh. And so we are at 19.2 grams, and this includes also the wing and the roll bar. So basically, this is what the car should be weighing. Should be the weight of the final setup. And these are the LEDs running now. So the car is not sitting on its chassis. I'm using the sideways Vantage chassis to kind of test it, because it's the one that LED chip and my LED lighting fits. So basically you can see the 8 LEDs here running on the front. Then I also put 2 green ones on the rear vents, behind the rear vents. As you can see.
Did the real car run lights in the rear vents, Gio?
Not really, but so these cars, especially in the IMSA, they have some green lights, especially on the rear. There are some kind of extra lighting also around the what's called it, the side numbers as well. There are illumination behind, and so this is kind of a bit of interpretation of that. So take it as a way of distinguish my own car, I would say. And yeah, I also was thinking like the Ford GT, for instance, and the rear, they had like lights running on the rear.
Yeah, I know that the Ford had them. I didn't know whether this
That's kind of a bit where I got inspiration. Yeah. And so here you can see it doesn't look really great in picture like this, but it's not that bad in person. So you can see the 7 LEDs running around. And this is how it looks from the top. And actually, yeah, then after, looking for more picture of the car running at night. So they also like to put a couple of extra LED kind of lights here, but I didn't manage to put that. So that's where I am. The car is pretty interesting. I'm going to do some comparison with this car, though it's pretty small. But the chassis is with the distance between the guide and the rear axle is huge, considering how small or compact the car is. So I'm going to do some comparison with other cars that I have on the GT3 class. I think the car is going to be a good performer. So I will. This weekend I think I will work on the mechanical side and update on that. We'll let you know.
Great looking car. Looking forward to more on that. And at that, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream, but we'll keep chatting as always. Everybody wave bye-bye. And hit end stream. End. Bye.